Hi! In our last video, we were able to get a rendering context for our canvas and draw a line. In this video, we're going to move forward and draw some circles and rectangles on our canvas. So let's go over and switch over to IntelliJ. Now, before we start drawing things, I want to create an abstraction layer for an object that we're going to be drawing to our canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new class, and I'm going to call this a sprite. So sprite represents a general object that we can draw to the canvas, but sprite is going to implement how to draw it. So I'm going to have an abstract class sprite, and what this allows us to do is provide implementations for some of the functions, but also state which implementations something that extends a sprite has to implement. So a sprite is going to take a val color of type string. The reason we have val at the beginning is we want to expose it to external users in case they want to know what the color of the sprite is. And it's a string because when we're working with canvases, we can actually use the same color strings that you would use when defining a CSS style. So you can do things like lime and green as your colors, and it will set the correct color in the canvas. Now, a sprite is going to have a method def render, which takes a context of type canvas rendering context 2D, and it's going to return unit, and we're going to provide a basic implementation. All sprites are going to provide their own implementation, but they will call this method before they render the object themselves. So in this render, what I want to first do is I want to set the color when we fill an object to be the color that was passed to us. So I'm going to do context.fillStyle is equal to color, and I also want to set the color for the stroke, which is the border. So I'm going to do context.strokeStyle, and it's going to be the same color. So that's it for our sprite class. Now we're going to go ahead and implement some of the main classes themselves. So first we're going to implement the class for a circle. So class circle. And what do we need for a circle? We need the center of the circle, the radius, and the color. So for the location, I'm actually going to create a class point which has val x of type int and val y of type int. So circle is going to take location of type point. It's going to take a radius of type int, and it's going to take a color of type string. And this extends a sprite with that color. So here we're saying that use this abstract class sprite and pass the color we got here as this color. Now we're going to override the render method, override def render context of type canvas rendering context 2D of type unit. The first thing we want to do is call this render method. So to call the method of the type that circle extends, all we have to do is do super.render context. So that's going to call this method, and it's going to set the fill and stroke styles to the color. Now we can render the circle itself. So to start rendering our circle, we do context.beginPath. Then we're going to do context.arc, and this lets us draw an arc, and we're going to fill in that arc to draw our entire circle. So arc first takes an x and a y, and this is actually really nice. Since we're dealing with static Scala types here, we can actually get code completion and see what we need to provide to this method. So that's a really nice thing in scala.js. So x is going to be location.x, y is going to be location.y, radius is going to be radius, start angle is going to be 0 because we want to start from the 0 angle and just make a full circle, and end angle is in radians, so it's going to be 2 pi. So math.pi times 2. So now we drew our arc. Now we need to do a fill and stroke. So context.fill, that fills in our arc, and context.stroke, that draws the border of this circle. Now I'm going to go over ahead and remove this from our main, and instead create a val circle. Is going to be a new circle. So first we need the location, so new point, and let's draw this in the middle of our canvas. So 250, 250. Our radius is going to be 50, and I'm going to draw a line circle. Now we just do now we do circle dot render with our canvas context. Now I can go. Now we already compiled, so I can go ahead and reload, and now we have our lime circle. Now, the second sprite we're going to implement is a rectangle, and this is not going to be a filled-in rectangle, so we're going to call this a box instead. And in the main Collidium game, the box is used for the border of the playing board. So I'm going to do class box takes a location, which is the top left location type point. It's going to take a width of type int and a height of type int and a color of type string, and this is going to, just like circle, extend sprite of color. Now we're going to do the same override def render context canvas rendering context 2D of type unit. First we're going to do super.render context, so this sets off the colors. Now for the rectangle we're going to do a context dot begin path, but here we're just going to do context dot stroke rect, which strokes a rectangle, and location dot x for our top, and location dot y for our top left, and then it takes width and height, so width, height. Now I can go ahead and create a val box is new box. Top left we can start it at 10, 10, and if you want to center this in our entire canvas, our width would be 480 and height would be 480. And we want a color, so let's do a black box. Now we just do box.render canvas context. Now wait for this to compile. Okay, compiled, reload, and now we have a black box surrounding our lime circle. So one thing we'll notice here is we're calling the same render method with the same canvas context, but for different circle and box. So to simplify this and remove the duplication, I'm going to create a val sprites, and this is just going to be a sequence of circle and box. And now I can just do sprites.forEach render, so _.render to call the render method on it with our canvas context. And the reason we're able to do this is both circle and box extend sprite. So the type of sprites is sequence of sprite. And sprite has a method render that we can just call. So now I can reload and we get the same result. So that's it for drawing some more complex objects. In the next video, we'll move on to having these objects move around on the canvas. So I'll see you next time.